Absent with Our Lord podcast. We're here today. We have myself, Jonathan, Aaron Hall, also known as, and I may refer to as Biff. We have Mackenzie, Corey, and Cassie. We're going to start today with our guest speaker, Aaron. What we've kind of talked about and heard from personal testimony, but we're going to move into the realms of how that life-changing moment where he was able to calm his strength and ultimately admit his weakness, turn to God, and how that's inspired his next avenue, his next walk through life. And I would let him take over this time because I just keep continuing to Ruck to Work, which if you haven't checked it out, check it out on his Facebook. It started as Facebook Live, but kind of doing some different content now. But if he has something else he'd like to talk about first, we'll go ahead and yield. The floor is yours, Mr. Hall.
So you guys jump in here anytime you want. If I need to clarify something or if I'm not making something clear, for sure, and I don't want to just yak the whole time that we're doing this. Excuse me. But I talked last episode about my testimony. I gave my testimony overcoming, in the process of recovery from alcoholism. But before God healed me, I had started a journey of physical, getting healthier, eating better, exercising more. I really started getting serious with that probably like 2012, 14, somewhere in there, and lost a bunch of weight even while I was drinking, getting into a few things because, and this plays into my testimony too, so we just keep up with that theme, I guess. But I'd always quit, like playing sports. Growing up in Galatia, we didn't have a lot of options. Basketball and baseball basically was it, but I'd always want to play. And then we'd get signed up and I'd start playing. And literally like Adam's year, I think, so probably like 7, 8 years old, I got hit like 90% of my at-bats. It was kid
you were
pitch
chubby
for the first year. I was a little bit chubby.
Crowding the plate.
I hadn't started looking like Goldberg from the Mighty Ducks quite yet, but I was just getting nailed, and I'd cry and go over to the bench, and didn't want to go back out and bat. Still, if we went outside right now and played baseball, fast pitch baseball, I would be nervous to get up and bat. But anyway, I would quit the season like midway through, and Mom and Dad, they didn't really aid in my quitting, but they definitely did not lay a stone in my way from getting off of that team, and it really set a bad precedence for me in my life moving forward. And so part of the physical fitness stuff, a buddy of mine asked, hey, you want to do this Go Ruck challenge? I'm like, I don't even know what Go Ruck is. So I get to look into some videos. It's overnight, like 12-hour deal, pretty, not crazy, but harder than anything I'd done in my life up to this point. And I got really interested in it because I've quit all these sports teams. I've quit everything. Like I hadn't read my Bible through. I hardly could finish reading a book. So many things just left incomplete over and over again. It's like, I'm going to go into this thing. I'm not physically prepared for it, but I'm going to go and I'm not going to quit. They're going to have to either wheel me out in an ambulance, or the cadre is going to have to kick me out and make me go home. I'm not quitting. So my buddy bails on me right before the event, has something come up from work. So I show up anyway. I'm by myself. I'm nervous as can be. I'm hungover, per the usual. And so we start this event. We have this welcome party, and I won't go crazy in it. Anyway, I'm cramping up before we even get out of the welcome party at this thing.
Toe touches.
How old are you?
That was 2015, so
okay.
I was, what is that, almost 30, I guess. I was 29. Yeah,
Math
29.
went to 57, but whatever.
Close enough. I finish it, though. It's a 12-hour deal overnight. There's only 4 of us that show up, and so the less people, the harder they tend to be, because you have the same amount of weight at the beginning. You have to team weight, and they bring extra coupons, as they call them. So pretty much all 4 of us have weight the entire night, and it was pretty rough. Definitely the hardest thing I ever did.
Just for people not know what Go Ruck activity, this is where you could like team carry a log through the city,
Yeah,
and
we had logs.
This is not an easy task.
We were doing hydro burpees and like these nice fountains in front of these beautiful buildings in downtown St. Louis. We went through some shady parts of town, like the street lights had been, I guess, shot out. There were no street lights. We had to like crawl under these boards to get into this old closed down like subway thing. I mean, it was.
Are you sure this was a sanctioned event?
If we hadn't been with,
he probably got a patch.
If we hadn't been with a Green Beret, I would have been way more nervous going, because I'm sure he was packing heat and he was, trained to kill. But made it through, didn't quit, and so I thought, okay, this is a step in the right direction. And now maybe we can start battling the alcohol and stuff. But anyway, it also, the trajectory of the physical fitness stuff and playing into, once I stopped drinking, once God healed me, and I don't want it to sound like, it was like an overnight change as far as my life was miraculously better. My wife didn't come right back home the next day. The finances weren't all fixed right away. It was, I'm not drinking anymore. Now I've got all the work starts now. This is where it gets real, and thankfully I had started the physical side of it a little bit earlier, because, that's such an important part of being able to serve and to perform these tasks. If you're not taking care of yourself, you're not going to be able to do the things for other people you're not going to be as good of a father or as good of a husband or as good of an employee or whatever if you're not taking care of yourself physically and mentally as well. But throughout the time, I wanted to, like I said in the last one, I've had this burning desire since I was a kid. The only way I can really, I guess, verbalize it is to save souls or to save lives. That's always, I was like military, police, preaching, whatever it is, now at least I have this testimony. I have this experience. I've got this mindset, this change in my mindset to choose the harder path, physically, mentally, spiritually, in all these ways. And so just to be, real honest, I started a business last year, and, part of it, listening to Gary Vaynerchuk talking about, brand building and things, to produce this content and stuff. And so it kind of all meshed together in that, I want to, like I said before too, not about notoriety really, but to get my message out there, to use whatever platform I have, and social media has gotten so easy to get the message out and just to share whatever I have. I listen to all these podcasts. I read all these books. I'm constantly consuming, and I wanted to start to produce, and I wanted to start being productive and to offer whatever I can. Take it or leave it. It's also an accountability tool for me that I'm going to do this every day, rain or shine, whether I feel like it or not. I've got and I'm open about it in videos, but I started doing these Facebook Lives every morning on my way to work. I've got like a 1/4 mile walk to work. It's not like this is some big feat of, endurance or fitness. That's not the point of it. The point of it is, and why I called it Ruck to Work, and I do it on Saturday and Sunday and on vacation days and on whatever day it is, even when I'm not working.
What?
But it's still, sorry to let you guys down.
Oh, wow.
But I haven't worked every day for the last 193 days at my real job. But it's the mindset thing. It's choosing the harder path. Okay, it's only a 1/4 mile. How many people have that same situation? It's about, choosing the harder thing. I could drive like I did every day for like 6 months there for whatever stupid reason, but I can walk to work or I can drive my truck. Let's choose to walk. Let's choose the harder path. Let's take the road less traveled, as they say. So that's what got me started on it. And I'm consuming all this content, and I'm getting all these good messages and stuff. And I realize, so many people have dealt with some of the same things that I've dealt with. So I just started making notes in my phone of all the stuff that strikes me, you know, that really catches my attention, stuff I'm reading, stuff that inspires me, and hoping to inspire others. And it wasn't too far into it that I decided to go ahead and just tell my testimony in kind of a Cliff Notes version in the videos. And I think I'll do that in more detail, you know, periodically through it, because this morning was 192 days or 193 days straight that I've made these videos. And it's weird. I don't understand. I stopped doing it live here recently and started recording. I'm still doing it in one take. You know, I'm not like producing this stuff, but I wanted to do it on Instagram and on Facebook, and I couldn't figure out a way to do it from live. Maybe Mackenzie, our resident expert,
I can definitely help you do both.
can
Yes.
help me do live, both of them. So anyway, that was kind of how Ruck to Work started, and the reason behind it and the motivation behind it, or I guess I should say inspiration. And I'm going to use this one in a video coming up soon, but I'll go ahead and throw it out here while we're talking.
Oh, yeah.
The
Original content.
This isn't original. This is straight from Craig Groeschel, which is another great podcast. If you guys don't listen to the Craig Groeschel podcast, that one is another just amazing one. You can pretty much guarantee every week you're going to get something from him. But he's talking about the difference between motivation and inspiration. You know, motivation being an external, it's a push. You know, that you think music, think bass, you know, think metal, you know, yeah, I'm going to get it. That's motivation. Inspiration comes from spirit. It comes from inside. It's a pull. It's going to pull you. And I'm not looking to motivate anybody necessarily. I want to hopefully inspire people. And, you know, that's what, like we were talking last time, you guys inspire me. You know, our spirits come together and your spirit pulls me up, you know, whenever I'm around you guys. So that's my inspiration on that.
That's good, and that's exactly why, if you study the Latin in the word, the M-O, and of course the I-N, one to move. It's got to move. It takes some physical force, some energy to move it. The inside is when we work on ourselves and focus on our internal conflicts, our internal struggles, and we talked about that. Not all the content we talk about shared. Maybe it should be, but as we take a short break in between filming sessions, in between podcasts, we keep that dialogue going, and even between the group, we inspire each other through our testimonies. We inspire one another and encourage one another and realize we are all cut from the same cloth, but that cloth is all cut and modeled in the image of our Creator, right?
Logos.
That's right.
Jordan Peterson talks about that all the time. Dialogue comes from logos. Who else was called Logos?
Mm-hmm.
Jesus.
That's right.
You know, so that it's deep. I can't explain it fully, but it plays into what you're saying.
And perfect time is the inspiration, the things you mentioned. I talked about it before. Never had Instagram before. AWOL White Oak Legends never had Facebook other than for buying junk on Marketplace. That's the whole reason I was disappointed when I got Facebook and didn't immediately have the Marketplace button. And I waited. I just thought it was like an Easter egg. You would pop up a couple days once you had Facebook. And I went like 3 weeks and I kept checking. I never get it. And finally I realized you had to put into it. You had to add friends. You had to show your worthiness to get Marketplace. So I was...
Show you're a real person.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm sitting here waiting on this button, but all the to pop up.
Jonathan Steinsaltz, if that is your real name.
Yeah, exactly. Are you click here if you're not a robot? But we became inspired to get a message out, to just like the Ruck to Work, to put out some content, to allow others to relate to ourselves as outdoorsmen, to ourselves as people, to ourselves as fallible, to ourselves as vulnerable, as we were talking about earlier. Again, not in the content, but how vulnerable we are, and it's easy. This is a good platform to share. So I think, again, I'm a big fan of the Ruck to Work, even because I don't watch the podcast you do, but I try and check them out. I don't know all the content. Well, I just downloaded Spotify when we started this podcast. I mean, that's the truth. Does my family have Spotify? Yeah. So I just let them do that. I'm probably paying for it, but I let them take that lead.
So when we started this White Oak Legends journey, it started with, okay, we're going to do Facebook, then we're going to do Instagram, and then we're going to do YouTube for sure, post my photography, do that. Then it's kind of evolved. And then now everybody's got a podcast. I think we're going to come out with an energy drink next month.
Yeah.
And then we're going to, I mean, it's, so yeah,
Start roasting coffee.
Yeah, there you go. Coffee will be the next Black Rifle, that's, I have found, I'm like, why haven't we did this portion sooner? Because this is easier. It's easier to edit. It's easier to post. It goes everywhere. The hours and hours of videoing and then editing that videoing is daunting. So this is easier for the creator as well. And I know with your Ruck to Work, you're doing, that's like 5 minutes, right? 5 minutes a day.
Usually less than 3.
Yeah.
But
And
somewhere between 2 to 5.
And you're on 192.
93.
193. So doing something every single day for that many days is incredibly accomplishing. And I'm saying it because I did 75 hard year before last, and I started 75 hard similar. You were already doing the fitness journey. You'd already lost a whole bunch of weight, and you started it like, what day of Ruck to Work did you start 75 hard?
Have to review the footage, maybe.
It's probably like 30, maybe a month in or something like that.
So did you do it like, hey, I'm already doing the outside portion kind of thing, I'm just going to go ahead, or you knew you were going to do 75 hard eventually?
When I first heard about 75 hard, it was like, towards the beginning of COVID time. I don't know why that matters, but the job I was working was very demanding. I was traveling a lot, back and forth, long commute. And so I was like, this is just not practical to even try. I want to do it sometime maybe, but it wasn't. I wasn't, I guess, mentally, I was just wussing out pretty much.
So before I did 75 hard, me and Corey both did a Tough Mudder, and it was like a classic, and it was St. Louis, and that was like 12 miles, I think. It was something like that. And me being an ex-college athlete, I think maybe once you get to that level of sports, you don't ever lose that. Like, I'll always be like, I want to be a forever athlete. That's kind of one thing that I got. I'm like, I always want to be a forever athlete. Like, I don't care if I'm 50, I at least want to look athletically 50, or like I'm not, and two, I know what the possibilities were if I don't keep my health in shape and what I could turn around. So me and Corey did the basic, you fall in love, you get married, you gain 30 pounds, you're looking at vacation pictures, and all of a sudden you're like,
pounds.
What? Huh?
50 pounds.
50 pounds. So, Corey's this, small statured man, and him at almost 200 pounds was, but it happened so fast. And you look back and you're like, oh my gosh. And for me, I'm like 5'5", 5'6", and I weighed almost like 175, or, I was like, oh my goodness, I've never, let myself, and it wasn't anything. I'm not shaming people that don't want to be athletic every day, but for me, that did not put me in a good mental zone. So me doing 75 hard, we had like terrible, dark life events happening. And for me, 75 hard was something that I had control of during a really dark period of time. But I knew that those 75 hard tasks, I can control all of that. And like everything else can continue to go bad, But those 75 hard tasks daily, and if you don't know what you're talking about, Andy Frisella owns First Form Real AF podcast. It's like episode 208. 75 hard is 2 workouts a day. One has to be outside, or 2 45-minute workouts a day. One has to be outside. Gallon of water a day. Follow a diet. Read 10 pages of a book. Am I getting it? That's all of it, right? I think.
The picture.
Oh,
progress
yeah.
picture.
Progress picture a day.
So
And that will get
I ended up
you.
doing 115 hard because I failed on day 40 because I didn't take my progress picture.
So he ended up on your
I had
app
to go and do it
cross-handed and like
again.
he's standing there on
Start
your app.
day
Oh,
one
my
if you
gosh.
miss anything.
Yeah.
Start back at the beginning.
And the purpose of that is nobody else is watching or tracking. Or if you want to, if you want to like, yeah, I did that, I just forgot. And then, you post, that's the whole purpose. The way you do one thing is how you do everything. So it's like the halfway. So those 75 days when I did it, like it was, I was the most, like I was for real. Like Corey can attest. I was doing dumbbell workouts in my house at like 11:30. Like I have to get this in. I would go if I had a long day at work and I'd get off. It'd be 10 o'clock at night, and I'm like, I have to do something for 45 minutes outside. Like I'd put my hoodies on. I'd put I mean, it was at one point he was like, this is getting a little ridiculous, and I'm like, I know, like I have to do this. Like it was almost like your Go Ruck thing. Like, no, I'm gonna do this. It's 75 days. I'm gonna do this. And I did the book. I read the book did you read the book too? No, he didn't read the book. So one of the things, you get to like day 50 example in the book, and Andy talks about what you probably feel at like day 50, doing something for 50 days straight. And, the most get results quick is like 21 days or something.
How to build a new habit.
There you go. Like 21 days, do this, or, 21 days to a new you or something like that. So in the book is, where you're in the zone of like day 50, he talks about how you see other people. You start noticing how other people are so easily like, oh, I'm not like, why are you, a gallon of water a day? Don't you pee all the time? I mean, a gallon of water a day, that's another task. It's like, yeah, but you just watched me at work for the last 50 days. Like, I'm walking every day at lunch outside. I'm not eating like junk and I'm not eating donuts or whatever. It gives light to how just the common person isn't willing to go through some struggle or some uncomfort. I know you and Jonathan both said recently, so you said it on a Ruck to Work and he said it on a podcast, something about like getting into that uncomfortable place.
Get comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yes. I think you just said that recently on something.
I try to say it all the time.
Pretty sure I said it first, though.
Okay.
I definitely said it first. Like probably 10 times to his one.
But
Get comfortable being uncomfortable. See, I said it again.
I wanted to know, because I knew you did it, what were your thoughts on the program? What did you, and Andy says it all the time over and over again. And I mean, Andy Frisella's podcast is really good, like really, really good, but it's not faith-based at all. Like lots of F-bombs. It's not PG.
It's not faith-based in the language.
Right, correct.
Yeah,
but he has Vaughn, and he talks about God, and
he's a believer. He's just very, very rough around the edges.
Yeah, I mean, he posts,
The world's rough, too. You got to get comfortable being uncomfortable, and sometimes listening to Andy might be.
Yeah, that's right. Like, oh, I'm not going to listen to that guy. He says the F-bomb too much. And, like, that guy is full of, like, if you listen to a Real AF podcast, you are very, I don't know, you're jacked up after listening to it.
AF.
Real AF Andy Frisella.
Or real.
Yeah.
Well,
I got it now.
Yeah, you got it now.
There's another one. There's another AF that there's multiple layers.
Right on.
So
for me,
us doing the podcast and all the other social media is like, yes, everybody else is already doing outdoor social media and things like that. Everybody's got a podcast, but just like the Unfolding podcast, it's very, very Christian based, very testimonial based. Well, this is just outdoorsman people, at least it's clean, maybe cleaner media content for maybe motivation, just in our Southern Illinois area.
Inspiration.
Yeah. So you can let us know what you think about 75 hard. And
Well, for me, it was it was totally about the mental aspect of it, the psychological, the physical side I wasn't too worried about. If I lose some weight, if I gain some muscle, great. But that really was not a factor for me at all. It was all about just the mental toughness. Having kids, doing the thing, having a full-time job, there were a lot of, like you said, late night workouts. Hunting season came in the middle of it, so some of them were 2 a.m. to get it in before we had to meet up to, go out hunting or whatever. Just to get comfortable being uncomfortable,
Comfortable being uncomfortable.
But to time management, I was slacking in a lot of ways, mentally, just not, paying enough attention to detail with some things, and it failed on day 40 because I didn't take my picture, small details. I've always been bad about some of that. I'm very conscientious, like over the top conscientious in some ways, but then some little things I don't pay so much attention to, as long as we get to where we need to go, I don't care so much about how we get there, on the little things. But sometimes you really have to pay attention to those small things. That, and one thing I left out talking about the other stuff is having 3 boys. My goal to be bigger, faster, stronger than them for as long as I possibly can has also been a big motivation, inspiration for just staying active and staying physically fit. So that was part of it. But to just take it to the next level, through my recovery, it's been a steady trajectory upward over the last couple years, leaving the job before I have now. I took it as a failure. I felt like I failed in that part, and I failed because I let off, and I failed in that I let off of a lot of the things that I had done for years, and into my recovery of taking care of myself and just focusing in on, I'm going to work. The solution to every problem out there is not just to work harder, to work more, to put more hours in or whatever else. You have to take care of yourself physically and spiritually as much as anything to really succeed. So that was really my motivating factor for doing 75 hard, was just to challenge myself again and try to kick it into the next.
Did you love it?
The next notch.
Did you ever find a day where you're like, this is like...
There were a lot of days that I didn't want to, because it was cold. I started on October 26th, and, no sugar. Went through Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas, into New Year. I went through all these holidays and stuff, having to kind of be the little bit of the weird guy because I wasn't eating any desserts or whatever at the holidays. But we also, at Christmas time, it got to like negative 5,000 here. And still got to do the outside workouts. My garage is not heated. I mean, I went through a lot of propane, but just miserable weather a lot of those times, which added to the suck, which I loved because, man, it was miserable, but that was what I needed, and that's what I was looking for. I'm not a glutton for punishment or whatever, but life is so easy and it's so convenient now. And that's why people go Ruck and 75 hard and Tough Mudder and all these things are getting so popular, because people need some of that struggle, and they need some adversity, some healthy adversity. So,
yeah, I always kind of look at, we just went through the beginning of the year and you see all these people at work or...
Oh, that was another thing. It was not going to be a New Year's resolution. Like, No, not doing it. I'll start on October. I'll start wherever. It's just not going to be.
You weren't
New
gonna
Year's.
not gonna be a resolutioner. I'm gonna do this, new year, new you. Well, whenever I did it, I needed it for the mental and where I was, not the physical. And I just knew, like, if I can power through this and do it, that I can prove to myself, that you can have control of aspects of things still. You can still get your hone in on things. And I'm going to make Jonathan talk because he probably didn't think I was going to make him talk during a fitness thing. But you've probably lost, have you lost
What are you
100?
trying to say?
Have you lost 100 pounds in, a year
Probably
or
like
two?
I think we was right 65, something like that. 65 hard. I think I fell short of the 75.
So
Does that fit?
So Jonathan's lost
That
a lot
that
of
counts.
Jonathan's lost a lot of weight, and whenever I met Biff, he was a big boy, and that was at work, and that was got to be 11 years ago or so, and he's a small, athletic, fit man now.
Yeah. He looks good.
And Jonathan, you recently went on a family trip, camping trip to visit family, and I remember you coming back from that trip saying, if you wouldn't have lost the weight that you had lost, there's no way that you could have enjoyed that like you had before.
I mean, anybody that's been a heavy person, gaining weight, losing weight, metabolism, all that stuff is science. A lot of it is, intake, good diets, things like that. I that's probably one of the most frustrating things for me. I come from a family that is husky, to put it the right way, that a lot of them, and we like to eat. What can you say? That's the best way, but it's the honest to God truth. Food can be an addiction too. Mm-hmm. It can be a comfort. It can be a joy. But getting back to that, it's anybody that's lost weight or has gotten heavy and then come down. It's a struggle. I can tell now when I put on 10 or 15 pounds quick. And when you're a bigger guy, that's easy to do. You can 10, 15 pounds in a week, 10 days. Something like that, some bad habits. So you really got to curb it. You really got to go with it. But what I can add to the conversation is the mental fortitude that 75 hard looks like it promotes. That is essential in any aspect. Is it going to beat an addiction? No, but it sets good habits. We're going to make mistakes. We're going to fail. We're going to do things. This is accountability for failing. This gives you a challenge. We should all challenge ourselves to overcome that. But anyone that's lost the weight, definitely it impacts us. And that's what I like. I made the commitment I think one of the last times we talked is I'm going to do 75 hard. I'm a mentally, I guess, mentally, spiritually fit. I wasn't, but Biff, a.k.a. Mr. Hall over here, said something that was profound to me. Just by doing this podcast, I learned something. I grew up in the opposite. Once you started something, you never quit. You never stopped. And that was a good practice my parents instilled into me, because I've heard speakers speak on setting the discipline of, if you can quit, you've taught them that it's okay. It's okay to start missing. If there's a reason, if a sickness, if it's this and that, and you're sick, it's okay. Don't get me wrong. If you're sick, all right, stay home. There's different levels, but when you instill that discipline of, okay, you're sick, you got sore throat, you're going to be fine. Get up, go to school. Those kind of things, those kind of disciplines you can instill in your children at an early age. I grew up as, we don't quit. You start it, you stick it out. I've never quit anything that I feel like, I can't think of anything that I'm like, I quit that. And that, Biff used some great analogies of, like, I got hit by pitches. I didn't play baseball. I got this, that, and I'm like, wow, yeah, and I could see that lead to struggles. And I've had my own struggles. Don't get me wrong. I'm not perfect, but when I think of 75 hard, it seems daunting. It's like, to Biff said, I'm going to run into a lot of things. I stack my calendar pretty full, that it's like, oh yeah, I'm going to be doing some workouts at 2:00 in the morning. I'm going to be doing some things when it's uncomfortable, to be comfortable.
I think if somebody like you does 75 hard and completes it, like actually does it, it could make him even more interesting.
Yeah, and that aspect of it, I like that, and I'm going to sit down, going to try it, not try it. I mean, obviously, you don't just try it. If you try it, you're going to fail, right?
You can't stop.
Yeah.
Try is a bullcrap word.
Yeah, exactly.
Either do or you don't.
See, that's right, and that's the mentality. I knew when I said try, I'm like, that shouldn't even be in my vocabulary, because I'm either going to do it and be awesome at it, or I'm just going to probably do it and be really good at it. That's it. But I'm looking forward to it. I'm going to join in this dialogue, but it all fits kind of the construct of what we're all sitting here to talk about. Is a lot of good ways, a lot of ways you can put anything worth having is worth working for. You want to be a fit person, you're going to have to put the effort in it. You want to recover from addiction, it's a daily struggle. You want to grow closer to your walk with God, it's a daily challenge. They said put the old flesh, die to the flesh daily, every day. Pray without ceasing. Why? Because you give it an ounce. You miss that, taking that picture, and you're starting all over sometimes. Don't give up, though. Just look at it for what it is, a failure. That helps us. That helps us to grow. That helps us see the challenge, the goal we're working to gain, or whatever it is worth doing it for. I probably am so pumped about doing 75 hard, I may do it in 50. Who knows?
So
Sure. And one thing, too, in all of this, and especially one of the things, two big takeaways from 75 hard for me was I stopped pretty early on in the mornings for sure. Like, I stopped listening to music almost completely when I do workouts, like several years ago. Listen to podcasts and audiobooks while I'm working out. But especially my morning workout, I always did the cardio part in the morning, and I would ruck for 23, 24 minutes out and then 24 minutes back to make sure I got 45 in. But nothing, no headphones, no nothing. That was prayer, meditation time. That was my morning meeting with the big guy every day for 115 days straight, and that was very valuable. That's a good time to have, for getting your morning started out right, and that's where the spiritual aspect of this stuff. It's not just about physical fitness. It's not about losing weight. It's not about getting stronger. Those are, once again, I think for me, a kind of a secondary thing, but the spiritual ability, but not just that, but how much more productive are you going to be as a husband or wife or a church member working around the church, coaching kids, whatever it is, if you're physically and mentally capable, more capable than you were before, taking care of yourself. You're going to be able to work more for God. You're going to be able to do more for His kingdom, if you're physically and mentally, spiritually prepared. But two, and Andy says this all the time, he's a rising tide raises all ships. My family life got better while we were doing, it took, and that was kind of one of my arguments before, taking the time from the family to put those two workouts in or whatever, which the morning one, except sometimes on the weekends, I would always get up before they all got up and get it done. The evening, that did take away some family time. But looking back on it now, and some of it just kind of dawned on me as we're talking, my wife, she has a lot of depression and anxiety struggles, and she started doing quite a bit better, during some of this. And maybe it was because I was doing better. Maybe I was not giving her such a hard time, maybe I wasn't dragging her down so much. My kids, just the whole relationship, the whole atmosphere around our house improved during all this time. Maybe it had nothing to do with 75 hard, but I think it did. And it not necessarily 75 hard, but my mindset as husband, father, leader in the home, to be the best of me I possibly can is not about me, and that none of this is about me. It's about being a better provider, and if I'm not the best being selfish isn't thinking of yourself first. Selfishness, is expecting other people to think of me first, so you got to take care of yourself.
Yeah.
And the word that came to my mind to sum up maybe this topic of this podcast that it's eluded us but been on the tip of our tongues or we didn't even know is commitment. You have to commit. When you commit to your spouse, when you commit to your relationships and getting things deeper and taking that time, you're going to succeed when you fully commit.
Yeah, and I 100% agree. My home life, marriage we got our miracle like the next week I completed 75 hard. It was just, I don't know. It may not have anything to do with why I did it, but it got me through the battle, and then there was victory right on the other side, and I was like in complete beast mode. Like, yes, like I could, on top of the mountain, I could do anything. And I think I'll always look back. Like I think 75 hard would be cool to do every year.
Do live hard now.
Yeah, now you can do live hard now. I mean, there was portions of it that was, not, I would, obviously you can't alter it, but there was things that I would have rather did other than some of the task list. But yeah, I wanted to make sure that we got your fill on that, because I know me and you listening to the same podcast people, Ed Milet, Jocko, Andy. I mean, you'll say something on Ruck to Work. I'm like, I just listened to that, and I know that.
What a rip-off.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that listen to podcasts, and there's a lot of people that don't.
I give credit to who it comes from. I don't claim any of it as my own. One thing I'll add to maybe, I don't know if it'll be the end, but on commitment, and you're right, that's 100% right. The book I'm reading right now, it's about a guy named Clyde Patton. He's a pastor down in Texas, born in the early 1900s, built a big work down there around Houston. It's called Man with a Vision. There's a quote. He's a Pentecostal pastor. I think you would dig this book. I may have to loan it to you if I can get approval from the owner. But anyway, said, and I talked about it the other morning, he said, there was a lot of things I couldn't be, but one thing I could be, faithful. When you make up your mind, God will make the way. Commitment.
That. Yeah, there's a reason for the verse. It's so popular. I can do all things. Whenever you commit, become faithful, and start looking through the eyes of it's going to take some effort. It's going to take some not only motivation, but that inspiration of me to get up and press, me to get up and push, me to get up and work, me to get up and work on myself, work on this relationship, work on this flabby, husky flesh, whatever that may be that you're working on in that season of life. Commit to it, go all in. Fail, that's part of learning. When you fall short, that's part of it. Anything you extend. My mom, if she were here, she told me, one day I asked her, why am I always the one in trouble? And she said, because you try to do so much. You're willing to push. You're willing to try so many things. That gets you in trouble. So don't ever be afraid to try. Don't ever be afraid to commit. Don't ever be afraid to push. Commitment, that's a lot of fearful factors in life, but it makes us who we are. And I don't have anything to add to this. I think this is a successful podcast of AWOL, Absent with Our Lord, featuring Mr. Biff, Aaron Hall.
Yeah. Out.
Out.
You didn't